Hi everyone, it's Lynn, and I'm going to make a scarecrow on this fan blade. So the first thing I did was give it a sanding, just a light one, just to kind of reduce some of that shiny and give it a little bit of a rough surface for the paint to adhere to. And then I wiped off all of that dust and I painted the top portion of it with this kind of light brown paint. I did the front, the sides, and the top, and I gave it just one coat. Then I took this piece of wood. It kind of reminds me of a ruler. I can't even remember where I got it, but I think you could use a paint stick or a shim. And I stained it with some antique wax. I wanted to get it as close to the original brown on the fan blade so that everything had the same base to start with. And when it was completely dry, I did paint it with that same light brown color that I did the top part of the blade. When I was done doing that, I moved on to the bottom part of the blade. And I used like a creamy white color here. And I did the same thing. I painted the front and the sides and the bottom edge. When everything was dry, I took a very stiff like whisk brush. I dipped it into some white paint. I offloaded quite a bit of it, and then I just brushed it over the dark brown area. I went on an angle one way and then back over it the other way, just to kind of give it almost like a straw hat finish. And then I did the same thing to that thinner piece of wood. And when that paint was dry, I flipped it over, I added some hot glue to the back, and I just started adding some strands of raffia. And when I had the amount that I was happy with, I added another kind of bead of glue over the top just to hold it all in place, and then I trimmed all of the excess off. And then I ran one more good bead of glue over the top of it, and I glued it down in between the two colors on the fan blade. And then I did run a bead of glue across the top of that piece of wood and hold it down in place. Next, I did the face, and you're going to see it's already done because I forgot to hit record, but I just used cardboard templates, traced them onto that fan blade, and then painted them in. And I do that especially for the eyes so I can make sure they turn out the same. And the mouth, I just made a squiggly line. And then I added some little stitch marks. So I just drew a bunch of X's all around. I probably put too many because I always put too many, but it still turns out really cute. Next, I took a piece of flannel that I folded into a triangle and I tied it around his neck. I just brought it around to the back, tied it into a knot, and I did glue it down. I added a few leaves and some berries to the top of the hat. And I know you can see that his eyes are finished here, but when I held it up, they looked all crooked. So I just painted the black over the top of that, and I did a little bit of a cuter version that I found I liked better. And all I did was add a couple of thin lines around the edge of the eye, and then I put a few little dots going down the other side. And I gave him some eyelashes. I used some blush that I just put on my finger and gave him some rosy cheeks. I added just a little bit of raffia up by the leaves, and then the last thing I did was gather up some of the fabric on his scarf or neckerchief. On the one side, I tied it off with some twine, and then I just glued a button over top of it. And look at how sweet he turned out. He's so stinking cute. I really hope you like the project, and I hope you give this one a try. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.